I don't know how many of you got my e-bulletin. Did you get it? It came last night. Anyway, I said in my e-bulletin that I will be talking. I took this actually from somebody saying that, who remembered that this comes originally from Marvin Anderson. Give up. You know, in Lent, we all talk about giving up, right? We're giving up something. And Marvin said, give up your favorite suffering. Ha. Ha. So I'm going to really take that. Do you know how to get out of an avalanche? We are in Switzerland, a country of snow and lots of mountains. And we do have avalanches. Do I say that? Avalanches. You know why a lot of people in snowstorms and avalanches, why they die, is that they are not knowing in this whirlwind of whiteness where to dig to get out. Because the snow, if you've been in a real snowstorm, the snow isn't coming from here, it comes sideways at you. And before you know, you're disoriented. Well, here is a trick that we've been taught that. I don't know if it really works when you're in this situation. You spit. You spit. And wherever the spit falls, you go the opposite direction. It's gravity, right? So, are you with me? And in a way, that's, of course, so symbolic what we do when we are in an avalanche of life. Things are going on in our life that have us, the wind blows from all directions. Spit. And that, spit. You know what I mean. Acknowledge what's going on. But then my God, turn the other way, where God is, where the truth is, where your teaching lies, right? Anyway, so I don't want to really jump ahead. I have written here these words that guide me through my Lent. And the words are plotting and planting. Plotting our resurrection. We believe in unity. That this whole journey, this whole Lent, is a preparation for something to happen at Easter, but it's only symbolic. The archetype of the eternal self, the archetype of the Christ self, is always there, always in you. Can I see some nods? Resurrection is really something that happens all the time, every time you make a choice. Those are mini resurrection, but there is a archetype, thank God, I call them archetype, that are eternally in us. We call it in unity the Christ, we call it the I am, whatever you want to call it, but this archetype is there, and we are activating it now through Lent in a very purposeful, clear way. So I want to say a couple of things about the archetype. Pierre de Chardin, you've heard the name, right? He was a scientist and a Jesuit priest. He said, our duty as humans is to proceed as if limits to our ability do not exist. You got that? Because we are collaborating with and in creation. It's one piece, I hope, that rings in you when you go home. You are to proceed as if there are no limits, because that affirms that you are willing to co-create. Of course, you, out of your human self, have limits. But in this statement lies a profound belief in the presence of the much larger self, the I am. Here is something that comes out of the unity tradition and treasures that I have kept over the years. Resurrection is a fact of normal life, a logical part. It is not something connected only with spectacular individuals like Jesus, the Buddha, or some others whom we might know or listen to. Resurrection is awakening to what is already the case, but is already true. You are life itself in activity. And another really, are you with me? Another really good one is, you have your being in and as eternity. This idea of the personal self, you know, is just what's sitting here, what is doing the thinking and the feeling and the script of your life is just a small facet of who you are, right? So this whole Lenten season, I want it to be a more purposeful and more conscious discipline of enlarging your perception of yourself. Where you are sitting right now, you are a very tiny facet of who you are. And when you're gone, that facet is gone, right? You have your being in and as eternity. And thank God in unity we have always this little addendum, in a highly individual way. To me, that is the whole beauty of this incredibly universal thought that you were a beam of light or a spark of light. But then the thought that you are individual, that there's something unique about you. So yes, you are large, eternal, but there is a uniqueness about you that carries from life to life. I think of it almost like a color. There is a color to your soul that resonates even with music, a certain tonality that rings, that is with you from life to life. So what does Mr. Fillmore have to say? He comes very close to what I said earlier. He says the resurrection takes place in us every time we rise to Jesus' realization of the perpetual indwelling life that is connecting us to the Father. Do you remember the tripod that I was talking with you about this? The human, the soul, and the higher self. So every time you are remembering or stepping into Jesus' footstep of his teaching about the indwelling life, and he had a particular strong relationship to his Father, Abba. To him, God was a father. And I think in those times, thinking about what went before, which was a highly rigid Jewish teaching, Jehovah was a punishing God. If you didn't do the right thing, he would come with the locusts and the fires and whatever. And then Jesus comes and he says, my God is a loving Father. He brought us that, right? When you think about going from Jehovah God in the Jewish teaching, you can think of, just off the cup of your head, you can think of some of what Jehovah has done. The floods and the fires and the disease and smitten this and testing you like that. And then Jesus comes in and says, my God is a loving Father who loves you. You are children. And he loves you, and it is his good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So the Easter and the Lenten season is really a call just for those 40 days. Write yourself some note that you can stick somewhere, that this is the discipline of Lent. I am life. I carry this in me. This archetype is alive in me. And my life is meant to activate that archetype more and more and more, and let that circle become larger of who I am. And it's only in that awareness, in that consciousness that you're growing yourself, that you become creative. Do you know that that's the only way you step into freedom? Till that consciousness has gotten bigger than where your skin stops. You just keep returning to the same lessons. Have you noticed that? Right? So, and I believe that I'm sitting with people who are co-creators. You have come to realize that you are at the point in life where you can create, co-create with Spirit, circumstances where otherwise there would be maybe war or disruption. You can be the agent to bring in harmony. You do it in a co-creative way. You can become an agent of creation. You can also become co-creative with your life where you are going. This is the gift really of Lent, is that you're solidifying your relationship to the larger self. I have a few more goodies. I had the privilege during the 90s, when I left here, to be in Santa Monica. And there, I don't know, maybe William remembers the name Sue Sicking. She was one of the grand dames of unity. The early unity phase of the teaching of the time of unity was carried by women. It was a string of women who started study groups in their homes. Well, she was one, Sue Sicking, Dr. Sue Sicking. And she was a grand dame, and she would come to Unity Village and teach to us ministerial students. That was in the late 60s and early 70s. She wrote a book, and she had a wonderful church in Santa Monica. And when I got to Santa Monica at the beginning of the 90s, from this blossomed church that I had experienced once, there was just a small group left. They had lost they sold the building, they were just meeting in a community center, and the minister had left. And I said, well, me, right? I said, why don't we start over again? Unity, it was called Unity by the Sea. Anyway, here comes something from her about Lent. And I don't know, some of you take notes, some of you don't, but lessen every negative thought by loving each and every day. I think in the Unity teaching, we had this thing about, any of you know about denial and affirmation? And then we took that teaching into a more dynamic, where it is an acceptance of what is, not an identification, but an acceptance and an honesty of what is. And then aligning with spirit and becoming co-creative. So right now, if you have something in your life that you've been avoiding, walking away from, you don't like it about yourself, it starts in an acknowledgement. I have a disruptive relationship, let's say. I'm making this up, right? I have something in my life that's not working. That's the first step. And then I align with the larger self. And that's when you become co-creative. So in the past, we did denial in the form of saying this disruptive relationship does not have a power over me. And then affirm the higher power. That was the technique. That was the principle of how to make this work. But in this, what I like about this is when you really think about it, she is saying, take your mind to what is in this new day. And maybe do that over and over again. You know how it is with negative thinking. Those thoughts are like random intrusions, right? So you have to fill your thinking. That's what she's saying. Fill your thinking with the beauty, loving each new day. What do I want you to take with you today? I would like us, as a group, as a fellowship, to affirm that this Lenten season is not so much denying ourselves sweets or this or that, but just doing the opposite. You can do that. You can go on a diet. More than happy to see you go on a diet. But what I'm thinking is that we make a commitment, that we will fast from suffering and support one another to be smiling reminders of the larger self. And when we see each other, we see the larger self with our inner eye. And if there's something that needs healing, now we align with the larger self to co-create that. I thought about, would you like to have a simpler life? Does that in any way appeal to you? Yeah? I have a wonderful series of Sunday talks on how to live a simpler life as a mystic in everyday living. How to live a simpler life. Who would like to have gladly a simpler life? Simpler, I leave that up to you in terms of interpretation. It can be with less problems, it can be with less issues, but a simpler life, clearer life, your priorities more aligned with who you are. and the ability to say goodbye to the things and the relationships that are not fitting anymore. That's, you make up what that means, but who would like to have a simpler life? Yeah. Clearer, clearer, clearer. Yeah, me too. I constantly ask Spirit. I have a friend, he's a psychotherapist actually, and he always walks around saying to me, "Where are you at home?" "Where are you at home?" he says to me. He's very Swiss and he's lived in the same house. He was born, lived in the same house, and he's still living there, and he's in his 70s. You talk about grounded, right? In terms of humanity. And he says to me, "Where are you at home?" I say, well, wherever I have, it's an excuse to him. But to me, it is wherever I am, I establish a feeling of home. And I hope that my spirit has become so acquainted with who I am in terms of my being self that I create home. I'm sure those of you who travel to the old countries, where you may be originally from, you bring home with you, right? But anyway, he doesn't buy into that. He thinks it's one big excuse. I want you all to know, my mother told me that I got thrown off a gypsy wagon. I landed in her arms and she had pity on me, so that she ended to take me in. That was the beginning. And then later on, I felt that in a previous life I've been a nomad. I lived with rugs on the wall and on the floor, and I don't look like a nomad. I know I don't in this life, right? But maybe up there in the north. So I want to close with Kahlil Gibran. So we're going to do a series on the simpler life. The challenge of being highly intellectual people, smart as you all are, living complex lives, right? Having lived many chapters, and how to live a simple spiritual life. Okay, but here is Gibran. Are you with me? If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. God bless you. So, we are doing fine with the time. We have the pleasure to have Jason perform, and this is very, very dear to me. He has unearthed the organ. The last time I was with you in the 80s, there was a woman by the name of Pearl. No, not Pearl. Peachy. Oh, my God. Peachy. There was another woman by the name of Pearl. No, Peachy. And the organ was over here, and she played it every Sunday. So we have Jason playing the organ. We might have to give him a moment because the organ has to warm up. Is it okay? And he's performing his own original piece of a song.
It's called Fly, Eagle, Fly. Over the mountains and high above the hills, fly, eagle, fly. The sun is not shining, but someday it will. Fly, eagle, fly. May strong winds carry you where you wish to go. Weather the storms and fly through rain and snow. Oh, the wind on your back and beneath outstretched wings. Fly, to be with you, I wish I was there. Fly, eagle, fly. May strong winds carry you where you wish to go. Weather the storms and fly through rain and snow. The wind down your back and beneath outstretched wings. Fly, eagle, fly.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you, thank you, thank you. I know she showed up. I felt Peachy showed up. Yeah, yeah, makes me very, moves me. Thank you very much, Jason, thank you. All right, shall we now bless our love offerings and our tithe? And we have maybe Peter and Paul come forward with collecting the goodies. But first, we are blessing our gifts in a mindful one of this is my manifestation of time and treasure and energy. And I am blessing it now. Let's bless it together with divine love. Together, divine love blesses and multiplies all that I give and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen. So you may come forward and collect the goodies, please. The announcement this week, we have our Tolle, Eckhart Tolle study group continuing on Tuesday night. I will join in this Tuesday and I have something in the making with James Gader from Unity Village, who